So, are you telling yourself a story? Has somebody told you a story about yourself? What do I mean by that? When I was 21, I was told once I got sober that I had a chemical imbalance in my body and that my serotonin levels were really low and I needed antidepressants in order to come out of my depression. I was told that by a psychiatrist. I was going to see a therapist, and thank God for this therapist, Ben. I wrote about him in my book, Tuesdays with Ben. And if it wasn't for him monitoring me and doing talk therapy along with taking these antidepressants, I might still be on them today. I mean, that's the truth. So Ben did not allow me to tell myself a story of what somebody believed I had. What Ben told me was that I needed community and that I needed to continue on in this 12-step recovery group, and that I needed to take it easy on myself, and that I needed to come back for more therapy. And I'm so grateful that he did that. And along with the help of my parents and my family, I was loved back to health. My community was there. I had this fantastic woman mentor in my life. And I got off those antidepressants after 6 months. So, that said, I still believe that story that I had this chemical imbalance in my body. So, imagine my surprise when, after 25 years of telling that same story, I read a book called Lost Connections by Johann Hari, the book I talk about all the time. The hard copy of it came in the mail just yesterday. Because I talk about it so much, I thought it's best that I just highlight notes from it and take some pieces out. I don't have it with me. I'm at my office in Clearwater. I left my home office today because we might have to go back inside soon. Who knows? Go Florida. But anyway, I digress. This book taught me so much about not believing the story that you're told, right? So if I believed that I had this chemical imbalance, I would have just stayed on medication. But Ben believed that the story wasn't over yet, that there was relief throughout medication, without medication. And I am not here to tell you that medication doesn't work. It worked for me, whether it was placebo or not, which might have been a little bit, because I actually remember the day I was told, when you tell a drug addict and an alcoholic that they're going to get a pill to feel better, we believe it. So then, because of course I was going to be depressed. Of course I was going to be depressed. I had just gone through so much trauma. You know, I blacked out. I moved to Detroit, Michigan. It's all in my book. You can read it there. I won't go through it right now. But of course I was depressed. I was living in my parents' house. I was 21 years old. I'd been on my own since I was 19. And when I say I was on my own, I mean, I was homeless and in a different state and in a very bad state of mind. But it was a traumatic experience I went through, so I was depressed. But imagine I did not have what so many people don't have. I had the support of this community. I had this 12-step group. I had the love of my family. I had a great therapist. And because of that, I was led to working on myself even more. Today, I listen to so many people tell me their story, the story that was told to them from somebody else. You are depressed. You have low levels of serotonin. There's no scientific evidence behind that. I'm not a doctor. I read that in a book. And then I went beyond that, and all of the researchers and doctors and scientists who did actually study it, I read what they said. And it turns out that story that I was told wasn't true. So for 25 years in the rooms of my recovery group, I told this story. I was 21, I was newly sober, and I was depressed, and I tried to leave this earth. And thank God, I found out that I had a chemical imbalance in my body, and that I had low levels of serotonin, and I needed these antidepressants to feel better. And that was the story I told myself. And like, if I was not led to this book by Johann Hari, I might have just continued to believe that story for the rest of my life. But how is it possible that I had a chemical imbalance in my body, in my brain? And then in 6 months, 20 milligrams of Prozac fixed that? Oh, Sharon, poor Sharon. She believed that for so long. And I told that to so many people. But just sitting back and thinking about it, thinking about what was said in this book, thinking about all the other books I've read since about trauma, I feel so silly knowing that I said that for so long. It's not my truth. It was the story I was told. I was told that I had that chemical imbalance. It wasn't true. I suffered from severe trauma. I relived that trauma when I wrote that book. I relive that trauma every time I talk about it. And it gets repressed every time you don't speak about yours, whether it be small or large. So, I read a book. I'm not here to be like, this is the way to do things now. I know so much. No, I'm here to tell you my truth. And my truth is that I believed a story that wasn't true. And then I told that story a bunch of times. So now I know that there's no such thing as these low levels of serotonin. There's no evidence to back that up. You should do the research yourself. I'll put it in the show notes. I had to deal with my trauma, and I dealt with it through doing the work that I learned in my 12-step recovery group. But I'm learning so much more about it now, and I've done all this other healing. That's why meditation is good for me now. That's why guided meditation has been helping me through this COVID-19 pandemic, because I don't want to be in silence in my brain for too long. That's why I exercise so much. That's why I do my best to eat well. That's why I have vitamins inside of this little drinky poo of water. My stomach's, it's the best. So stop telling yourself that story. Every time you say I am or I have, maybe it's not true. Do you really have to tell yourself and everybody else around you for the rest of your life that you are or you have? Maybe it's not true. So we had a cancellation today. And I thought I could stress myself out during a pandemic and find somebody new to replace her. Or I could just talk to you about my truth when it comes to mental health. God knows, I do know a thing or two. Because personal and practical experience is real. You don't always have to hear it from the doctors. The reasons these 12-step recovery groups work so well is because it's just one human being identifying with another. You know how good it feels to hear me too? Guess why that movement worked? Yeah, me too. I too was told that I had a chemical imbalance in my body and I needed drugs to get better. But I've been without them for over 24 years and I've been doing just fine. And I've had my ups and my downs, just like many of us have. But if I thought that I had to rely on a drug for the rest of my life, I can't live that life anymore. I can't put that much reliance upon anything else except maybe a source that's greater than me. So my hope for you today is that you stop telling yourself that story. Maybe there's a different story you could tell yourself. You don't have to be codependent, anxious, OCD. You might have some of those traits, but you don't have to continue living that life of that story. At least try to change the way it comes out of your mouth. That's what I'm trying to do. You don't have to. You could do whatever the hell you want. But just passing on some of my wisdom that I've learned through the years, and I'm glad that I'm open to learning. I recommend this book, Lost Connections. I'm reading it again. I think this is my fifth time reading it. And I also highly recommend the podcast Last Day. You know, there's a big, big opioid crisis going on right now. It has been for a long time. And this whole mental health crisis has been going on for a long time. And it's really, 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 really important right now that we all start talking about it just a little bit more, especially because of this pandemic. So I wish you love, and I wish you peace, and I wish you tell yourself a different story today. Maybe you don't have to announce all the time what you think you have. Thank you.
So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.